Well, you know what, honestly, I realized it when we were doing Cheers that there was something great there. This has the potential to be one of the greatest shows ever now because midstream,
Cheers was one of the most popular sitcoms of all time, and for over a decade, it kept audiences laughing with its sharp humor and unforgettable characters. But while everything on screen looked effortless, behind the scenes, it was a very different story entirely. Beneath the polished comedy was a set filled with intense tension, feuds, and shocking power struggles that lingered for years. But Kelsey Grammer has finally opened up about the show, and what he revealed has stirred up one of the most talked-about secrets in sitcom history. Which beloved star turned the Cheers set into anything but friendly? It's not who you'd expect, and the answer might just change everything you thought you knew about the show. The birth of Cheers. In September of 1982, NBC premiered a new sitcom that looked and felt unlike anything else on television. It was called Cheers, and its entire idea revolved around a neighborhood bar in Boston where, as the famous theme song said, everybody knows your name. The setting was quite simple. It was a cozy, wood-paneled pub filled with regulars and an endlessly rotating mix of unusual customers. But what really made Cheers special was its characters. At the heart of the show was Sam Malone, a charming ex-baseball pitcher turned bartender played by Ted Danson. Sam was confident, good-looking, and usually more interested in romance than responsibility. Opposite him stood Diane Chambers, portrayed by the iconic Shelley Long. Diane was intellectual, idealistic, and had an air of superiority that clashed directly with Sam's laid-back personality. Their love-hate relationship quickly became the backbone of the show's early seasons, and their funny back-and-forth talks and real feelings made the show more than just a typical sitcom. Rhea Perlman brought grit and sarcasm to the show as Carla Tortelli, the playful waitress with an endless supply of children and insults. Nicholas Colasanto played Coach Ernie Pantuso, Sam's loyal and somewhat dim-witted co-bartender, who provided a gentle, lovable energy that grounded the cast. Then there were the bar's two most iconic regulars, George Wendt as Norm Peterson, a perpetually unemployed accountant with a love for beer, and John Ratzenberger as Cliff Clavin, a postal worker whose useless trivia and awkward delivery made him the butt of countless jokes. But despite its strong cast and clever writing, Cheers got off to a rocky start. In its first season, it ranked a poor 77th out of 100 shows in the Nielsen ratings. Most networks would have canceled it immediately, but NBC made a rare and risky decision to keep the show alive, banking on its quality and giving it a chance to find its audience. Over time, thanks to strong word of mouth, more praise from critics, and some key time slot changes, the show began to gain traction. Viewers fell in love with the familiarity of the bar, the chemistry between characters, and the witty dialogue that set it apart from the normal sitcoms of the era. By the mid-1980s, Cheers had become a television powerhouse. Its ratings climbed steadily, and it was soon one of NBC's biggest hits. It also became a major player during awards season. Over its 11-season run, Cheers was nominated for a staggering 117 Emmy Awards and won 28 of them, including Outstanding Comedy Series 4 times. What started as a low-rated newcomer had turned into one of the most celebrated and influential sitcoms in television history. In 1984, during the show's third season, the writers introduced a new character who would unexpectedly shift the entire dynamic of the show. That character was Dr. Frasier Crane, played by a then relatively unknown stage actor named Kelsey Grammer. Frasier was brought in as a temporary plot device. At the time, Diane and Sam's relationship was on another one of its many breaks, and the writers needed someone new to stir the pot. Frasier was a Harvard-educated psychiatrist who spoke in long, elaborate sentences, had a deep love for opera and psychology, and believed he was the smartest man in any room. He was introduced as Diane's new love interest, someone more aligned with her refined tastes and cultural interests. At first, the character wasn't meant to last beyond a few episodes, and there were no long-term plans for Kelsey Grammer's involvement in the show beyond that. But what happened next surprised everyone. From the moment Grammer appeared on screen, he stood out, not in a flashy way, but with an unusual blend of dry humor, awkward arrogance, and unexpected vulnerability. Audiences responded quickly to his character, even if they didn't quite like him at first. He was pompous, overly analytical, and sometimes frustratingly proud. But he was also unique, funny, and very memorable. The producers noticed how much comic potential Frasier had, especially when placed alongside characters like Sam and Carla, who weren't afraid to make fun of how he acted like he was better than others. And this led to some of the show's funniest and most quotable scenes. Over time, Frasier went from just a background character to a central figure in Cheers. His storylines became more developed. His interactions with the rest of the bar grew richer, and the audience began to understand his anxieties, his insecurities, and his desperate need to be respected. He wasn't just Diane's boyfriend anymore. He had become a full member of the Cheers family. Kelsey Grammer's performance played a huge role in that transformation. He gave Frasier a depth that wasn't typical of sitcom characters in the 1980s. Beneath the layers of sarcasm and snobbery was a man trying so hard to connect with others, to be loved, and to feel at home in a place that constantly reminded him how out of place he was. Despite how awesome Grammer's character was, behind the scenes, there were mixed feelings about expanding the cast, and some actors reportedly worried about their characters being pushed to the side. Kelsey Grammer took a character meant for a few episodes and turned him into a television icon. It's hard to imagine Cheers without Frasier Crane. Yet in the beginning, almost no one saw it coming. But while the laughter on screen felt effortless and the bar always seemed like a place of warmth and friendship, things behind the scenes weren't always so simple. Fame, creative tensions, and clashing personalities were starting to brew beneath the surface. As the spotlight grew brighter, so did the pressure. And what many viewers didn't see was the storm quietly building just outside the Cheers set, the challenges that haunted the cast. On the surface, Cheers looked like a dream job. The cast had incredible chemistry, the scripts were smart and funny, and millions of fans tuned in every week to feel like part of that Boston bar family. But behind the scenes, things weren't nearly as lighthearted. As the show's popularity exploded, the pressure on its stars began to mount. Long filming days, public scrutiny, and the emotional toll of sudden fame all took their toll. While the cast worked hard to deliver perfect comedic timing on screen, many were struggling silently when the cameras weren't rolling. And no one faced more personal chaos during the height of Cheers than Kelsey Grammer. By the time Grammer joined the show in 1984, he was already carrying a lifetime of emotional scars. Just a few years earlier, in 1975, he had suffered a tragedy few could ever fully recover from. His sister, Karen Grammer, tragically lost her life when she was just 18 years old. Kelsey was only 20 years old at the time, and at the beginning of his acting career was left to deal with the extremely devastating and deeply traumatic loss. The loss changed him forever. Though he rarely spoke about it publicly during the Cheers years, close friends and colleagues knew the pain never left him. It haunted him, and it became one of the emotional cracks that, over time, widened into something much darker. As his character's popularity grew, so did his paycheck and celebrity status. But behind the polished performances, he was battling a deepening dependency on alcohol and illicit substances. What started as casual drinking quickly escalated, and soon, his off-screen life was spiraling out of control. Grammer later admitted that the more successful he became, the more he used alcohol and substances to numb himself. The pressure to maintain his rising fame combined with unresolved grief created a storm he couldn't outrun. There were nights he didn't show up for rehearsals. There were mornings he came to set still recovering from the night before. While the show's production team worked hard to keep things running smoothly, those close to him could see the warning signs. Then came 1990, a year that would mark a turning point. Just as Cheers was preparing for another major season, Grammer was arrested for driving under the influence and possession of a controlled substance. The incident landed him in jail for 30 days and quickly made headlines. Fans were shocked, and so were many in the entertainment industry. The incident was a major wake-up call, not just for Grammer but for the entire Cheers team. But instead of making a public spectacle, the show's producers and cast responded with a quiet but clear message. They supported Grammer as a colleague and friend, but they expected change. Several cast members reportedly rallied around him privately, offering compassion without enabling him. At the same time, there were firm conversations about professionalism and responsibility. Grammer's future on the show was never publicly in question, but the message was clear. He had to take care of himself and get serious about turning his life around. In later interviews, Grammer credited the Cheers team with helping him feel grounded again, at least for a while. But the road to recovery would still take many years, and the challenges didn't end with his legal troubles. While Kelsey Grammer struggled with demons behind closed doors, another major emotional blow hit the Cheers cast again, and this time it was one they couldn't keep private. Nicholas Colasanto, who played the lovable, slightly absent-minded coach, was a fan favorite from day one. His warm presence, gentle humor, and real-life kindness made him beloved both on and off-screen. But what fans didn't know was that Colasanto had been battling heart disease for years. By the third season, his health was declining rapidly. Despite his illness, Colasanto continued to show up for work, determined to be there for the show and his fellow cast members. But in early 1985, just before production began on a new episode, Nicholas Colasanto passed away at the age of 61. The cast and crew were devastated. For many, he had been a father figure, especially to the younger cast members. The producers made a decision not to recast the role of Coach. They believed no one could replace what Colasanto brought to the show. Instead, they wrote his character out quietly and respectfully, allowing the bar to feel his absence just as the cast did in real life. Later that season, a new character was introduced, Woody Boyd, played by a then unknown actor named Woody Harrelson. Unlike Coach, Woody was young, naive, and from a small town in Indiana. His energy was different, but it worked. Harrelson quickly became a fan favorite, and his chemistry with the rest of the cast helped ease the transition. Still, for those who had known Colasanto personally, the set never felt quite the same. In his honor, the producers kept a photo of the Apache warrior Geronimo, which Colasanto kept in his dressing room for good luck on the main set of Cheers. But the challenges didn't end there. In 1987, the show faced yet another major change. Kirstie Alley joined the cast as Rebecca Howe, the bar's new manager. Her character wasn't overly intellectual or emotionally complicated. She was ambitious, image-conscious, and deeply insecure, and this provided a whole new kind of humor for the show to explore. However, although Alley's arrival injected fresh energy into the series and ratings stayed strong, outside the show, her personal beliefs started to draw curiosity, especially her very public affiliation with the Church of Scientology. At the time, Scientology wasn't nearly as publicly scrutinized as it would later become, but Alley's open support of the church raised eyebrows. Some media outlets began speculating about how her beliefs might be influencing the show or her working relationships. Internally, the Cheers team maintained professionalism, and Alley herself never brought her beliefs into the workplace. Still, the topic became a quiet source of media attention, especially as she rose to greater fame. Her personal life also became tabloid fodder, with high-profile relationships and public weight battles making headlines. Like Grammer, Alley faced personal struggles during her time on the show, though hers were less centered on addiction and more on emotional well-being and intense media scrutiny. As the seasons passed, the cast of Cheers continued to deliver one of the most beloved comedies in TV history. But success came with a price, and at some point, the cast wasn't just performing, they were surviving. The public saw laughs, witty banter, and warm-hearted bar scenes. But backstage, each cast member was navigating their own journey, some filled with pain, others with pressure, and all with the weight of being part of something far bigger than any individual role. And while the show never broke stride in front of the camera, the true story of Cheers wasn't just about the characters we saw every Thursday night. It was about a group of actors, each carrying something heavy, each coping in their own way, and somehow still coming together to create magic week after week. Through it all, the show kept moving forward. But not every storm was easy to weather, and not every cast connection was as warm as it looked on screen. Behind the laughs and cheers, there was a tension between two cast members that was so real, it threatened to tear the show apart. Shelley Long's on-set behavior and clash with Kelsey Grammer. Shelley Long, who played Diane Chambers on Cheers, was a central figure in the show's early years. Diane's character was smart, witty, and often the driving force behind many of the show's funniest moments. But behind the scenes, Shelley Long earned a reputation for being difficult to work with. And unfortunately, many people who worked on the show have had something to say about her behavior on the set of the show. Shelley has often been described as controlling and very particular about how her character and the show's scripts were handled. Writers and co-stars alike have said she took on a habit of regularly questioning the script. She didn't just accept the lines or scenes as they were written. Instead, she insisted on reworking or rewriting scenes she didn't agree with. This was not a one-time thing, but a frequent behavior that sometimes caused tension during production. Ted Danson, who played Sam Malone, has talked openly about these challenges. While he acknowledged Shelley's talent, he also said she could be tough on set. Ted mentioned that Shelley's strong opinions about the script and her role sometimes led to disagreements. Yet, he respected her professionalism and her commitment to the show's quality. He once said, "It was hard for us sometimes to be in the room together, but when we started working, it was just fantastic." Ken Levine, one of the show's writers and producers, also shared his experience working with Shelley Long. Levine described her as a professional, but he did admit she was challenging at times. He explained that she was passionate about Diane's character and wanted to make sure the role was portrayed in the best way possible. This passion sometimes meant she pushed hard for changes in the scripts or how scenes were played out. Unfortunately, this behavior affected more than just the writers. It created a working atmosphere that was sometimes tense for the cast and crew. They often had to deal with the pressure of having to navigate Shelley's demands while trying to keep production moving smoothly, and this made the job less enjoyable. The way Shelley Long approached her role in the show affected many people around her. Cast members found it challenging to work with someone who often questioned the scripts and wanted to change scenes on the fly. This added stress and sometimes created friction between cast members, especially during busy shooting schedules. Her insistence on controlling the direction of her character sometimes interfered with the natural flow of the show. Since Diane was a lead character and appeared in many scenes, her endless decisions and demands had a negative impact on the show's production. What made things worse was the fact that when other actors' characters interacted with Diane's, any changes made by Shelley would affect their own performances and storylines, and this made the job more taxing. Unsurprisingly, one person who felt this impact strongly was Kelsey Grammer. When Kelsey Grammer joined Cheers during its third season as Dr. Frasier Crane, his character was originally meant to be a short-term addition. However, Frasier quickly became popular, and his role quickly expanded into a regular part of the show. Most people couldn't deny the fact that Shelley Long and Grammer had real chemistry on set, and so fans were completely shocked when, in his memoir, Grammer revealed that Shelley Long was not happy with how the character, Frasier, quickly gained importance. According to him, Shelley wanted Frasier's character written off the show. In fact, Grammer claimed that Long felt threatened by how much attention his character was getting, and she became worried that he was taking away from her spotlight as a lead character. Grammer even claimed that Shelley actively pushed the producers to remove his character because of these concerns. He went on to suggest that the producers decided to extend his role as a way of pushing back against Shelley's complaints. In other words, Grammer believed that part of the reason his character stayed on the show was to spite Shelley and resist her demands. However, Ken Levine, who was closely involved with Cheers throughout its run, eventually decided to respond to Grammer's claims and make some clarifications. He denied that Shelley Long ever tried to have Kelsey Grammer removed from the show, and explained that the decision to keep Frasier on the show was based entirely on Grammer's talent and the positive response from audiences. According to him, Grammer brought something unique to the show with his portrayal of Frasier Crane, and his character added a new kind of humor and intelligence to the bar's mix. However, Levine admitted that Shelley Long could be a difficult presence on set, saying, "She could be difficult, she could be obstinate, she could overthink something to death, but it was never out of spite. It was just her very exacting process. At times, I will admit it was frustrating and exhausting, but Shelley has a good heart." He pointed out that she was strong-willed and passionate about her role, but still super professional. Levine rejected the idea that Long actively campaigned against Grammer or even tried to undermine his role on the show. Instead, he stressed that the producers made all casting decisions based on what was best for the show. But when Shelley Long made the decision to leave the show, after 5 successful seasons on Cheers, fans and industry insiders were left stunned. The show was already a hit, growing in popularity with solid ratings and critical acclaim, and it was pretty unusual for a lead actress to leave such a popular series, especially when the future looked bright. Shelley eventually admitted that the main reason for leaving was to focus on a career in film. She wanted to explore new opportunities beyond television and take on movie roles that would allow her to stretch her acting skills in different ways. This desire to pursue a film career was understandable, but it left the cast and producers facing a major challenge of continuing the show without one of its central characters. Shelley's departure meant the end of Diane Chambers' story on Cheers. Diane had been at the heart of many storylines, especially her complicated relationship with Ted Danson's Sam Malone. Without Diane, the show needed fresh energy and new characters to keep viewers engaged. The producers responded by bringing in Kirstie Alley as Rebecca Howe. Rebecca was a very different character from Diane, and her arrival marked a shift in the show's tone, introducing fresh conflicts and storylines centered around her attempts to manage the bar. Contrary to some rumors at the time, Shelley Long's exit was reportedly amicable. Though there were stories about behind-the-scenes tensions, official accounts suggest that she left on good terms with the cast and crew. She remained proud of her work on Cheers and even reportedly maintained friendly relationships with some of her former colleagues. This positive connection was evident years later when Shelley made guest appearances on Frasier, the successful spin-off starring Kelsey Grammer as Frasier Crane. These guest roles allowed fans to reconnect with her once again, and it proved that her departure from the original series did not mean a permanent goodbye. Her willingness to revisit her role also demonstrated her respect for the show's legacy and the characters she helped bring to life. It reassured audiences that despite any past difficulties, the relationships formed during the show were still valued by the actors involved. But while Shelley Long's exit marked the end of one chapter, it was just the beginning of new and unexpected dynamics behind the bar. For Kelsey Grammer, who had become a key player on the show, navigating relationships with his co-stars would prove to be just as complicated and sometimes more revealing than the scripted drama on screen. Kelsey Grammer's relationships with other co-stars. Kelsey Grammer's time on Cheers was not just about playing the clever psychiatrist Dr. Frasier Crane, because off-screen, his relationships with fellow cast members shaped much of his experience on the show. Among these, his friendship with Kirstie Alley, who joined the series after Shelley Long left, stands out as particularly close and supportive. When Kirstie Alley joined the show, she and Grammer quickly discovered that they shared more than just a workplace. They connected on a personal level as well. Grammer often spoke warmly about Kirstie's lively and bold personality. He admired her for being straightforward and full of life, qualities that made their friendship strong. Kirstie's presence on set made the workplace feel more like a supportive family. Grammer described how having her around lightened the mood, even when things got stressful behind the scenes. Their friendship was one of mutual respect and understanding, helping both actors grow professionally and personally. This bond became especially important during some tough times in Grammer's life. Like many actors, Grammer faced personal challenges, including struggles with the law. During these moments, Kirstie's support was vital. She stood by him quietly but firmly, offering friendship without judgment. Their closeness helped him feel less alone during the most difficult periods of his life. When she passed away in 2022, Grammer paid tribute to her, saying, "I loved Kirstie. She was always beautiful. She just had that thing about her. She was a radiant human being, and that came through her." While his friendship with Kirstie was special, Grammer also maintained good professional relationships with other cast members. The Cheers ensemble was large and diverse, with each actor bringing their own unique style to the show. Despite these differences, Grammer was known for being professional and respectful to his colleagues. He understood the importance of teamwork, especially on a show that relied so much on cast chemistry. With Ted Danson, who played Sam Malone, Grammer shared many key scenes and storylines. Though their characters sometimes had conflicts on screen, the actors themselves maintained a polite and professional rapport. Grammer respected Danson's leading role and experience, often learning from his co-star's confidence and ease in front of the camera. George Wendt and John Ratzenberger, who played Norm and Cliff respectively, were beloved for their comedic timing and easygoing nature. Grammer appreciated their humor and the way they brought lightness to the show. While he wasn't as close personally with these cast members as he was with Kirstie Alley, their working relationship was friendly and constructive. On the other hand, Rhea Perlman, who played Carla, was known for her sharp wit and strong character. Grammer also respected her acting skills and professionalism. Though their characters had different story arcs, their time working together was marked by mutual respect. Overall, Kelsey Grammer's relationships with his Cheers co-stars were a mix of friendship, professional respect, and sometimes quiet distance. He understood the importance of maintaining a good working environment, especially on a long-running show with such a tight-knit group. Despite this, not every working relationship ended on a positive note, just like his relationship with Shelley Long. In the end, Cheers wasn't just a sitcom. It was a pressure cooker of talent, egos, heartbreak, and unexpected friendships. Behind the laughter and applause were real people navigating fame, grief, and personal demons, all while trying to make magic on screen. And while some tensions were never fully resolved, they added to the layered legacy of a show that is still remembered decades later. Whatever you think of the behind-the-scenes drama, one thing's for sure: there was always more going on at that Boston bar than met the eye. Who was your favorite Cheers character? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another untold Hollywood story.